they feel very much like calamari, the same texture and the same kind of strength as well, tensile strength. So if you pulled a bit of calamari and you pulled it until it snapped, that would be exactly the same as this. And I've tried it. I've pulled it until it's broken. It feels and it's exactly like calamari. I've never seen anything like it though prior to halfway through 2021. And the way that started, we was having trouble embalming people, and I thought the pump was knackered, and it wasn't the pump. And when we had a young lad in that had died suddenly and been given a post-mortem, and the family had asked us to embalm him, and as we've opened him up and gone to manually target, you could see it all hanging out of him. And that was the first person we come across, in 2021. And we've seen it ever since. But there's a couple of tactics now. The coroners know that I'm very vocal about it. So I suspect they probably cleaned the deceased out before they come to me now. And we've noticed extra incisions been made. And another tactic that another hospital does is they'll hold on deceased until they're absolutely rotten. And then we can't embalm them. And they know we won't embalm them, so we won't look. And then denies the family any chance of seeing them.
Wow. Use the discount code Jason to support the show at Coins and Bullion of Honiton for great advice. Also restore your health, mind and body, and your potential with the amazing Roots products using the discount code below the show. Hello everybody, I'm back again, Jason Iasadis, my show Project Humanity. For that very reason, it's about humanity, and that's why I've got a returning guest on, a superstar in my mind, John O'Looney. He's a funeral undertaker from Milton Keynes. John, thanks for joining me again, mate.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Just amazing what you've been doing. It really, really is. And and you just said it. I cared about humanity. Imagine if so many other people did, And I remember we first spoke on the show years ago now. When all this started, when you were coming out, one of the first very brave souls to come out and say, my embalmers are finding stuff. I don't know what it is. It's like these clots, blah, blah, blah. Then I had Nikki Rupright-King on the show. She was working with all the other people, wasn't she? And then we showed the clots. Well, let's just show one. Let's show you straight away. Let's show you one, guys. Here it is, okay? This is one of Nikki Rupright-King's clots on there. And that's what we were showing on the show all those years ago. Everyone was saying we were mad, John. People vilifying us, trying to take us down, banning us. There you go.
I've still got them coming out of people now. This is two separate people I've had in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, it is what it is. It's people, you could call it conspiracy, but when you then factor in simply the knowledge of the excess death rate in the last year, it's 100,000 more sudden excess deaths. That's in the ONS government released data. What are they dying from? That's what they're dying from.
Bloody hell, John. Well, I've got Alex Mitchell back on the show. When we finish, I've got Alex Lawn. He lost his leg, as you know, and he's on tonight with my cousin Lincoln Leach, whose daughter, 20 years old, died. And the nurse in the hospital said, we're seeing this all the time as myocarditis. Yeah. Other 2 members of my family, other people I know, dropping like flies. So John, what I want to hear you say here in your own words, because I just heard you say this today, that you formed a school. Tell us the story, John.
Yeah, so I've got a 13-year-old son, 13 going on 23. They know it all, don't they? He's walking around like Conor McGregor now. He's a big lad. He's like me. The apple don't fall far from the tree. And he last year, he was at the beginning of year 7, and he started a new school. And he joined this school. And of course, I know they've got a vaccination program in there. And I knew they were going to target the kids pretty quickly. So I emailed the school in the summer holidays just before he started, knowing that the teachers or whoever would get this email. And I said, I'm a local funeral director. I've got a funeral home over on Aisley. I'm seeing lots of people that are coming in having died following vaccination. So I know that you have a vaccine, an immunisation nurse there, and I know that and I'm happy to name it's Hazley School in Milton Keynes. So it's right next to the Oak Hill where we live. It's only 150 yards. So I said, I don't want my son touched with any vaccines whatsoever. And this is me letting you know I don't give my consent. And I would urge every parent to do that via an email. Now, there's a couple of stories I'm happy to go into today, and I've got loads of time to tell them because we could potentially save a child tonight.
Oh, thanks, John. Well, that's
Yeah.
just. And, oh, by the way, this is the thing that I don't know if you just said that. Excuse me if you did. She rang you back and she said, "Did you just say that?"
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, I didn't get a reply to the email now, but I took a phone call at work in the funeral home about 3-4 days later, and it was from a girl called Sarah. So she said, "Oh, hello, Mr. O'Looney. My name's Sarah. I'm the immunisation nurse at Hazley." She said, "It's just really a quick phone call about your email." So I said, "Oh, okay." So I went on to explain and said what I'd seen and blah, blah, blah. And I thought that she would be, I thought she would be oblivious to it, shocked, horrified, and totally unaware. She actually openly admitted, she said, "Yes, I know the risks, I know." I said, and I kind of said to her, "Okay then." I said, "Have you got children?" She said, "Oh, yes, I've got 2. And she did tell me the age. They were young. I can't remember, 8 and 10 or something like that. And I said, would you have them vaccinated?" And she went, "Oh, no." So she would do my child, knowing the risks, but wouldn't do her own. And I kind of said, I said that too. I said, "So you do my kid, but you wouldn't do your own, knowing the risks?" She said, "No, but it's my job." When you're like, yeah, mental. Absolutely. These people are insane. And then I had a similar occurrence. I went into a chemist, and I'm going back, I don't know, I've talked about this in the past, 12 months ago maybe, and I was in the queue to get a prescription for some painkillers, and this girl came in with a lanyard on, and a little like credit card ID, and she was obviously a council carer, and she had a little old boy with her who was toddling along behind, bless him, and he looked like he was onset dementia, where he's still quite functioning, but he needed care. She said, "Oh, I'm here to give John his COVID vaccination." So I was like, oh, and I could feel the hairs going the back of my neck, So they said, "Okay, give me a minute, we'll get ready." And she went browsing and left this poor sod sitting there, not really knowing where he was, while she was browsing the bits, I suppose, making the most of her time at work, And I pulled her over and I said, "Hiya." I said, "My name's John." I said, "I hope you don't mind me having a word with you. I'm a local undertaker."
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, because I just can't ignore it, And I said to her, I've seen loads of people die after being vaccinated. I said, I couldn't help but hear what you said. And she said, "Yes, I know." And I was like, okay. I said, "Well, why would you bring him in for a vaccination might hurt him or kill him? It's my job."
What?
I said, yeah, and I said to her, "But that's someone's dad."
God.
But it's my job, yeah. And that's where, and I could feel myself getting aggravated. So when you're like, okay, you carry on then. Yeah, and I had the conversation loud enough for other people to hear, because I want people to know. These people are absolutely insane. And they know they won't give their own family these injections, but they'll inject yours. Because it's their job.
John, it's unbelievable,
Well, yeah, if you think about it logically, if you take, I don't know, a dozen old people a week for a COVID injection, how many are you going to see fall over? Loads. I spoke to a girl in here who worked in the vaccination centre week before last. We did a funeral for her family. And she said she saw loads and loads of people falling over in the vaccination centre. They actually had the curtains kept coming round and they were wheeling them out on stretchers. And she thought at the time it was needle phobia. And she thought to herself, I can't believe so many people have got needle phobia, because that's what they were being told. Yeah, it's insane. Do you know when you're like, how can people not see it when there's 100,000 excess deaths and people are dropping down dead? Super footballers on live TV, newsreaders, people that just don't normally die. Football players worth tens of millions of pounds, and they're scrutinised every ligament, but they missed that heart condition. Come on,
Bloody hell,
the only thing they've got in common is that they've had this COVID jab. That's what it is.
But John, surely it's the COVID that's doing it. It's not the jabs.
No, okay, I can tell you. Well, I've been a funeral director for 18 years, and I've got a BIE certified embalmer who's done 22 years. We've never seen it before. We regularly attend online group meetings with half a dozen plus other embalmers and funeral workers who all agree. I've had 60 or 70 reach out to me. I've even had them tap me on the shoulder at the local crematorium down at Crown Hill and say, thanks for speaking out. And I say, well, that's great. I say, well, what about you speaking out? And they look at the floor and they shuffle their feet and well, you know, they're all frightened. They're all frightened of getting sacked. For money. It's all about money. Yeah.
My God, John, that's what the Nazi bloody scientist said, wasn't it? It was our job, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. At some point, they'll be the only people left, and then their gaze is going to turn on them and lead them off. There'll be no one there arguing for them because we'll all be gone.
Yeah. Well, John, how much were the doctors getting per jab? You've got figures, I'll bet you.
Yeah. So they were getting a tenner a jab, and they could do 100 a day tax free.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so that's £5,000 a week they can earn tax free. If they do, obviously, 50. You know, it's £10 a jab. 100 people a day they can do tax free. They only get taxed on the 101st. Well, that's a pretty busy day sticking that old poison in it.
Bloody hell, man.
Yeah, of course.
It's unbelievable. I knew they were making a lot of money, but I didn't know it was tax free.
Yeah, up to a certain threshold. So it's the same as remdesivir. Remdesivir was being given to hospitals. Hospitals were taking it on the pretext they would get discount on the other drugs they buy. So there were incentives to get it in and use it. Yeah.
John, it's terrible. It's just, look, I know we know these things anyway, but when I heard it coming from you again now, so succinctly and put into the context, it's like, so look, let's remember something, everybody. Don't forget, these people got kids in college, right?
Yeah,
and look, bring into that also they got a reputation to justify, right?
Yeah.
So if they were to, and that's, look, John, you're a rarity to come out as a funeral undertaker. You're not going to, because people respect you. You could have lost everything.
Do you know what it is? I'm a strong believer in not being frightened of telling the truth, and I'm not frightened of death, and I won't be complicit in murder. And I've got a moral compass inside me that I just can't sway, you know, and sometimes I don't doubt that my missus, for example, will wish I never spoke out because she's frightened to death of what they might do to me. I'm not frightened. And I've openly said, come and get me. If you want to come and get me, come and get me. I'm a easy target. You know, I'm well past, I can still have a row, but I'm well past my best. You know, so they can do whatever they like, but I won't be complicit in murder and genocide. It's that simple. They've tried to intimidate me. They've tried to buy me. I won't be bought. I won't be bought.
Did they, like, give us a clue, John?
Yeah. So I had an email come across to me from a girl called Yvonne Myers. Oh, God. That would have been about 18 months ago. I'd been speaking out about 2 years ago, perhaps. And let me just see if I can find it, because I kept a copy of it.
See, John, this is vital information, and the beauty of
RT News.
RT, right?
It was on September the 13th, 2021, 2:32 p.m. It was from Yvonne Myers. So Yvonne Myers RT@email.com was the address it came from. And she goes into great detail about how wonderful, you know, it is to hear my story, and they'd love it as an exclusive. And she would tie me in contractually, and they would make a one-off payment of $85,000 to me, and then they would tout it to their global network. Well, I kind of got the email, and it was at the weekend, so I kind of looked at it. I thought, well, I'll have a look Monday. And I got in touch, and I know what they're going to do. They're going to take me, they're going to contract me in, pay me the money, and then I can't talk to anyone else ever about it because it's their exclusive. They would then tout that to the different networks. No network back in 2021, they won't even let you type COVID in a YouTube or a Facebook, you know. And I said, I'll gladly speak to you. I'll do any interview you want, but I'm not being contracted in. I don't want a penny because it's blood money. Why would I want to earn blood money? It's hard enough as a funeral director putting murder victims in coffins anyway. And I'm not saying everyone has been murdered, but I've put people I know have been murdered by the state into coffins. People in their 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s on a regular basis. There is no justice for these people. They're gaslighting, they're lying. I mean, I listened to Anne Widdecombe the other day. What a scumbag she's turned out to be. I thought she was one of the few women with a little bit of integrity and virtue. She's got none. She openly said, "Oh, the government never forced you." You know, when you're like, what planet were you on then? When they were telling we couldn't travel and we couldn't work and you couldn't go out to a restaurant. Do you know what I mean? It's these people are insane, and it's clear to me. We need to clear Westminster totally. It needs a total reset, and well, that made me think maybe that is part of the plan where they're having a cull, and I can tell you now what they call it. They call it cutting the grass. That's what they refer to us as, where the grass is too long. So they're cutting the grass.
Is Israel use the same term when they go in and cut the grass in bloody Gaza? Yeah,
well, that's what they're doing now. It's called genocide. So what they're going to do is, I think they're going to get us to a stage where the people will rise up and they will take governments down. Well, I'm not necessarily advocating violence, but I think if 5 million of us marched on Westminster, that'd be the end of this government. That's it. That they'd be out. Now, I wonder if at some point it's going to be widely acknowledged and that people have been paid and there's been a crime and they're going to build back better. And it was all about ushering in a new world order. And they've played on the basic principle of these people being stupid, because people like Boris Johnson are stupid and greedy and a little bit sadistic as well. You know, you look at Boris Johnson's dad, thick and sadistic and a eugenicist.
Look at the bloody book. What was the book he wrote? I got it here somewhere.
I remember watching him on a game show hosted by Joanna Lumley some time ago, and it was they used to do like rhetorical questions, and it was a kind of comedic program. So they would ask a rhetorical question, you press a buzzer, you give your comedy answer, and it was about a Russian biolab has blown up. What would your reaction be? And he, of course, he presses his button and he said, well, as an environmentalist, he said it'd be the best possible outcome because it would get rid of millions. And everyone was laughing. And he was straight faced. He genuinely meant it.
Yeah, his book was about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the rotten apple don't fall far from a rotten tree, does it? Yeah. Boris Johnson will go down in history as one of the worst criminal killers this country's ever known.
Lying bloody cheats, John. And look at bloody Tony Blair came back in and he was saying to people, threatening people, you've got to take the jab, it's the right thing. That lying murderer, he's killed millions of people.
He's a scumbag. I can't believe that man is not languishing in a prison cell. But that was by legislation that he passed, because he passed legislation while he was in office saying that any serving prime minister who declares war can't be jailed. That was Tony Blair's own legislation he pushed through when he went into Iraq. You know, I mean, we were told, weren't we, in World War II, we went to war with Germany because they invaded Poland, invaded a sovereign nation. And yet we've done Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya. Look at all the countries we've plundered in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And as a British citizen, I can tell you, I'm absolutely sickened, mortified and embarrassed of my government. They don't represent me. They disgust me. They're the most foul. They're not even subtle about what they're doing. You know, you look at Emphasis and the gas and oil licenses they're getting in Gaza. Richie Sunak's father-in-law. And then Richie Sunak says, and we fully support. You know, of course you do. Because you're earning 1.7 billion out of it, you muppet. You know, what can't people see? But they're openly doing it now.
And Assange is still there, rotting in prison, poor man. Yeah. I've been up to Belmarsh trying to support him right outside, and there he is. And who should be in there? Tony Blair and all those monsters. But the great thing is, John, thanks to people like you and thanks to other people, is the smelling salts is hitting more noses now. There is it. I know it's not fast enough for people like us, but maybe.
Well, I think what we're going to find is that the Great Reset actually morphs into the Great Awakening. Much like a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. That's what's going to happen. I can tell you, Tony Blair, his days are numbered as a free man. So let him enjoy his sadistic pleasure, whatever he's doing now. He hasn't got much longer, I tell you. We will bring these bastards down. I'm convinced.
John is fantastic. You've made my day. You're a great spokesman for truth, mate, because you cover the whole thing, you know, and it's beautiful to hear you speak like this. It really is, and especially in your position. And I just so admire you. If more people had the bloody courage you've got, we'd be out of this problem in no time. But maybe, listen, maybe if people awaken too quick, John, maybe it'd all collapse too quick and there'd be too much chaos, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So if you get 10 people and you put them all in a room and they all went to sleep, in the morning, put an alarm clock on. One would be bing and out of bed, wide awake. Others take a lot longer to wake up. And if you push it too hard on them, you'll lose them. You'll think, oh, it's conspiracy. So there's a lot of people that have reached out to me with a lot of information, and I kind of think of Ecclesiastes 1:18. I'm not a deeply religious guy. I believe there is a God. That's what this has taught me the last 3 years, because there's a great evil. And it says, with knowledge comes sorrow, and with greater knowledge comes a greater sorrow. And it is true. The more you learn, the more disturbing and sorrowful it is, especially when you touch the realms of child trafficking, organ harvesting, satanic worship, ritual killing, and that's what these people are into. But if you start saying that and talking that, you know, people are just not going to believe it. You're going to lose their engagement. And I think they need gradually waking up to see it a bit at a time, so that we get the numbers, because it is a numbers game.
Yeah, well bloody said, John. And if you shake someone too soon, you can damage them. Do you know,
Yeah,
I used to do conferences in Dartington, Great Holier, about child sex trafficking, the satanic abuse of children. We used to have Robert David Steele there speaking. He was in the CIA, ex-CIA. He told me things about Hillary Clinton I couldn't say on you, right? And I was in Parliament. Someone invited me to Parliament, and they showed me around, blah, blah, blah. It's a long story, but they took me around the gallery, John, okay? And there was Cyril Smith, there was Edward Heath, there was Lord Mountbatten, all these, because I'm an artist. He showed me the paintings. He said, what do you think? And I said, my God, I thought they were all pedophiles. Yes, he said, right? And we got to the end where the Queen was, and he said, what do you think of this one? I said, well, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, cut long story short, he said to me, Prince Charles, have you heard about Prince Charles? I said, no. Have you heard other things about his father? He said, oh, children, lots of children. Don't forget, he was hanging around with Savile. These people are satanic monsters. But this is what I want to just chuck in here, John, after you said that. And this is what I think. Most people I know who know a lot of stuff, start talking about kids and abuse of children and the satanic stuff. They go, I can't face that. And listen, everybody, that's why it's happening, because you can't face it. It gives it carte blanche. But more and more people, John, thanks to people like you, sensible people like you in positions of really respectful positions, this is what's changing the dynamic, John. You've done so much. You've done so much to wake people up, and there's so much that's going on now. And what I like about your work is you're covering every. I know you just started with obviously what you found. You're a man who looks at what he finds, and then you went on to other stuff. So I mean. The Canadian doctor thing was amazing. I read that on your page today, and I thought, hey, that can't be true. The Canadian doctors paralyzed a woman. They admitted it was the vaccination, and then they're talking about she can be euthanized. I mean, this is madness, man. It's just unbelievable. But
certain countries now, they're actually they've legalized full-term abortion.
Yeah,
full-term abortion. So these babies are born and they're euthanized straight away. People won't believe it. People won't want to come to terms with that or grasp it. That's what can be done. I mean, I'll tell you a little story that you'll find quite interesting. So when I was at the meeting with Sir Graham Brady in 2021, I met a girl who was a professor, and she worked for the government. She was one of the people present at that meeting, and she worked on the HPV vaccine. Now, I asked her, I said, why did you fall out with government? And she told me the story, right? So the story is this. She was working on a HPV vaccine for cervical cancer, and she found that whilst it would provide minuscule protection against cancer, it would compromise the integrity of a woman's cervix. And so that as the baby grew inside the woman, they'd get pregnant, but as the weight bore down second, third trimester, it would rupture the cervix due to the weight, because it had been compromised with this vaccine, and they would lose the child because it obviously born too early. So she went to her bosses, and her bosses said, so she's an intelligent girl. She didn't make a fuss. She knew better than to do that. She went away. She tweaked the vaccine so it offered a lot more protection against cancer and didn't damage the cervix, and then went back not with a problem, but with the solution. And they sacked her straight away and cleared her desk out. And that was how she left government. Now, that leads into something that I was doing as a funeral director. So as a funeral director, when I worked for the co-op, I was doing what was called the baby run. And I used to go to John Ratcliffe Hospital, and I would pick up between, usually once a month, and I'd collect babies, and it'd be between 1 and 4 babies. And they were all premature babies, and they were between 4 months and 6 months in gestation. So they're perfectly formed. Perfect little humans, just very small.
And sorry to jump in, John, I've got to remind people, here's a man here who does free funerals for babies. And also, John, what a fair man you are. And I've paid for a funeral. I looked at your cost. Thank you for being so bloody fair with people, mate.
Well, I'm there to look after people, not exploit them.
Anyway, sorry to jump in, John. Go on.
No, that's all right. So I would pick these babies up, and it was obvious to me looking at these babies why they died. They were 4 months gestation. While they looked perfect and were very small, their lungs weren't developed, so they couldn't breathe. It was clear why they died. Yet loads of them have been given a full post-mortem, and I could never understand why. And I was told why. It's because they harvest the babies for organs. So what happens is a deceased child, a baby, is worth thousands and thousands to Big Pharma, and they couldn't keep up with the demand. So the HPV vaccine was made to supply the demand for deceased babies.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, but that's the reality. Yeah, that's the reality.
Wow. Unbelievable, John. Unbelievable. Look, the thing is, people still don't get it, because most people, John, I've said this till I'm sick in the face, most people still don't never think, my government did never do that.
No,
You know?
the trouble is, and I'll tell you, I've thought long and hard about this. I think fundamentally, most people, although they've dumbed them down a lot with the fluoride in the water and what's in the foods, they're fundamentally good people. Like my missus, do you know what? She's a little sweetheart, bless her. I love her dearly. She's got such a nice, kind nature about her. She could not believe that anyone would do this on purpose, so they won't believe it. And she sees what the vaccines have done. She can't believe it's a deliberate act. Even though I sat with Sir Graham, and he openly admitted in a room full of people that included Dr. Tess Lawrie, Dr. Sucharit Bhakdi, Professor Dolores Cahill, Dr. Stephen Frost, Dr. Sam White, Mark Sexton, Anna Debisseray was there, Philip Hyland, the lawyer, Francis Hall, the barrister, and Sir Graham Brady. He openly admitted, after being told what would happen and who would die and how, and being given reams and reams of evidence. I watched that evidence go over to him. He said, it's above my pay grade. There's nothing I can do to stop it. I'll try, but I can't promise anything. And then he left.
Oh, God.
We all sat there in disbelief, because we went to this meeting thinking, oh, at last, someone's listening. At last, somebody is listening, and these people, it will stop. And he knew.
My God.
Well, the feeling was that he actually went there to gather intel on how much we knew.
But yeah.
To report back to Rothschilds,
Yeah. My God, alive. Well, do you know what? Well, one of them just died, didn't he? One of the Rothschilds, I think.
Hey!
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's like, but there's always, someone once said, there's always someone.
And he was, I think he was 87, which is quite young in demon years. So whether I don't know whether they've slipped his consciousness into a clone or a skin. Who knows, mate? Who knows? But
he should have drunk more child's blood, mate.
Mate, the world is a better place if one of them is gone, because they're evil, wicked people.
Too bloody right, John. Now I want to ask you just so many things I've got to cram in here, John. I hope we've got a bit more time. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Good.
Okay, I know how busy you are. John's already done amazing things today, I bet. Now, John, my cousin's daughter died. He's on the show with Alex Mitchell tonight, right? And I'll never forget, he told me, and I was devastated. 20 years old, she went in, the nurse in the Cardiff hospital said, we're seeing this all the time, it's myocarditis, which made Lincoln explode. And Lincoln he's been vaccinated, okay? So he probably didn't believe this kind of thing, right? So I said, the first thing I said, I'm sorry to ask you this, Lincoln, did they do a post-mortem, right? No, right, John? No. I said, okay. He said, and now he's saying to me they won't release the medical records. That's why we've got Alex Mitchell on tonight with him, and he's helping Lincoln, right?
I'd be very interested to know on what basis you can't request your own child who's died medical records.
Yeah. I think they've asked for them later. That's the thing. And at the time, they didn't do a post-mortem. What, on a 20-year-old girl?
Yeah. So I see it all the while. Now.
And was that, John, because they didn't want anyone to see and find these clots, right?
I would imagine so. I mean, ultimately, so the problem lies in a thrombi is a blockage in a vein or an artery. We're seeing them predominantly in arteries as well now, they used to be only in veins pre-COVID. It could be a jelly bean. It could be a piece of plastic. It could be a piece of wood. A blockage, any type of blockage, the umbrella term is thrombi. Now, government policy dictates that's the cause of death, is a blockage, a thrombi. They don't go into what it's made of or what's generated it, because that is government policy not to.
Right.
Just the cause of death. And the cause of death is that physical obstruction, a thrombi,
Right.
a thrombosis death. So the most common causes of death are heart attack, stroke due to thrombosis,
Right.
or cancers, aren't
Right.
they?
Right.
We're still seeing those deaths. So
Yeah.
these vaccines are simulating natural causes of death. But the clue is in the numbers and the ages of the people being affected. I can tell you, to give you an idea, when I worked for the co-op, the branch I was in, it was doing about 800 funerals a year, and I could count the amount of people under 50 on one hand in 12-month period, because people under 50 just don't bloody die.
Right.
They're still young. I've currently, I do about 160 funerals a year. I've got 5 people under 50 this month have been through my premises, and I do a quarter of the funerals, less than a quarter of the funerals. The numbers are way off the scale, and that's why the ONS data are reconfiguring how they count excess deaths to hide the numbers. And it's been well documented. You know, you've only got to look at Katie Hopkins, John Campbell. They've talked about this in the last week. They're reformulating they're redoing their formulas to hide the numbers, and they're going to gaslight us. I can tell you, they're going to gaslight, they're going to lie, they're going to ignore us until they can usher in the WHO in May. That's going to be the reality.
Exactly. The WHO in May is the big one, you know. And
yeah, of course it is. And then they'll all take a step back and probably hide in their bunkers.
yeah, bloody right they will. Yeah. Someone asked me to ask you about when what are these clots that someone was saying about, ask him about graphene oxide. I've had all sorts of people talking about graphene on my show, and I'm not an expert on it. That's why I get people to ask.
Me neither.
Well, right, but I just wondered, they said, could it be that there's all those tiny little bits of graphene in that are slicing the cells, cutting the cells, and then the cells are trying to rebuild and causing clots? I don't know if
Well,
there's
that is the thought, is that this is obviously it's been formed inside the body, so it is something that the body is capable of building. What's causing that? The feeling is it may well be scar tissue being massively overbuilt. So they're stimulating a natural process to overbuild to levels that I've never seen before, which is why it appears to be a new pathology. It clearly is something the body builds. It's just the rate at which it builds. It'd be the equivalent of seeing a guy 12 foot tall. You know, it's physically possible as people grow, but this is growing out of all proportion. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, and this is in arteries as well. So
was it Richard Hirschman that said the other day, sorry, John, that it grows outside the body? You take it out and it carries on growing on its own. Was it him?
I don't know. There's been so many reports of different people saying everything. I mean, I can tell you these in here, they don't grow any more than they've grown. I've not noticed any growth. I've got a magnet here, a neodymium magnet. If I put a magnet on them, it doesn't influence them in any way. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're not magnetically influenced. They feel very much like calamari, the same texture and the same kind of strength as well, tensile strength. So if you pulled a bit of calamari and you pulled it until it snapped, that would be exactly the same as this. And I've tried it. I've pulled it until it's broken. It feels and it's exactly like calamari. I've never seen anything like it though prior to halfway through 2021, and the way that started, we was having trouble embalming people, and I thought the pump was knackered, and it wasn't the pump. And when we had a young lad in that died suddenly and been given a post-mortem, and the family had asked us to embalm him, and as we've opened him up and gone to manually target, you could see it all hanging out of him, and that was the first person we come across in 2021, and we've seen it ever since. But there's a couple of tactics now. The coroners know that I'm very vocal about it. So I suspect they probably cleaned the deceased out before they come to me now. And we've noticed extra incisions been made. And another tactic that another hospital does is they'll hold on deceased until they're absolutely rotten. And then we can't embalm them. And they know we won't embalm them, so we won't look. And then denies the family any chance of seeing them. You know, yeah.
And what happens, just to chuck in, I'm sorry if you can't tell me, that's fair enough, but I'm just curious, it came into my mind. What happens if there's a family brings their deceased in and you find these things? What do you write to report, or have you got to tell them?
Well, I'm supposed to report it to the coroner. Now, if I have any concerns, I have 2 obligations. One is as a decent human being.
Mm.
And let me explain. If I go to the hospital and I pick a deceased up and I bring that deceased back to my place and the stretcher comes off the ambulance, then we pull out a lifting trolley, an embalming trolley with a tray on, and we pull that deceased over onto the tray, ready to go into a temperature controlled environment, a fridge for want of a better word. And I roll that deceased over and there's a knife hanging out of its back or a puncture wound. I have a moral obligation as a decent human being to report those concerns. I also have a legal obligation to report those concerns. So there's moral and there's legal. I've reported it to the coroner. They don't want to know. They're not interested. So I emailed my coroner, this initial lad of 30, in the middle of 2021, and I said, look, I've got concerns about this young lad I've found coming. I know you've had a look at him. He is full of these really strange white clots that we've never seen before. And by we, I meant me and my embalmer who's done 22 years. Do you need samples? Are you aware of them? I know you must have seen them because we've only picked up where you've left off. I didn't get a reply to the email. I got a phone call from one of the girls in the office who haven't got a clue what's going on, bless them. They must know the numbers are off, but they don't know the pathology. You know, it's between me, who's looking in the body, and the pathologist. And he said, no, don't worry, it's all perfectly normal. And he suggested it grows post-mortem. So what he's trying to tell me is that when you die, your arteries fill up with rubber at 30 years old. Absolute fabrication and fantasy. That's rubbish. I worked for the coroner for Northamptonshire for 7 years on body recovery. I've literally picked pieces of people up. I've never seen this stuff before inside people. So it's clear that there's different ways of these people are complicit. They're hiding it. There's different ways of doing it. Some are trying to remove it from deceased before they're released to me. Others are holding on to deceased till they're far too decomposed to embalm. And then, to be honest, we have to double body bag them. That's all we can do. We can't do anything. If their body's broken down where you can't embalm them, and they know this. They know this. So there are various ways they're trying to hide it.
God, John. And these people have got a conscience, supposedly. But again,
No,
look, money changes people's conscience.
Of course it does,
Money ethically compromises. When you've got a job and you've got a thing, you'll keep jabbing people up.
100%. And of course, the other thing is how long do you keep a secret for before you then become complicit in the crime?
Until the secret becomes bloody obvious, and we're here now, aren't we?
Well, yeah, exactly that. So that's the hope, is that by keep speaking it and people seeing it and seeing their youngsters die around them, questions would be asked and these people would be exposed, you know. And I don't care what the reason for them hiding it is, whether it be financial, coercement, threats. I don't care. They need to step out and tell the truth. And, you know, as the evidence mounts, it's very interesting to see Richie Sunak on GB News the other night on Prime Minister's Question Time, and John White stood up the vaccine.
I spoke to John, yep.
Yeah, he pulled him, didn't he? And Richie Sunak immediately threw the doctors under the bus, didn't he? He said, well, the politicians only did what the doctors told us to do. So it's clear that moving forward, as public anger grows, it's the doctors that are going to get thrown under the bus. Well, then the doctors need to look at that window of opportunity closing now, speak to each other privately, make a pact, whatever, and all step out together so that we can address this together like decent human beings. It's not too late for them to redeem themselves.
Like the Obamas. Like the Obamas have done. Like the Obamas have done.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, and there are more and more. I'm including emails every week, and there's a dozen on there now every week. And I know there are more and more coming out. It seems to be a lot more in America and Canada, where they're actually a bit more willing to speak. You know, I'm guessing there is a difference up here. For example, here, the BIE, the British Institute of Embalmers, openly threatened its members against speaking out about any concerns. You know, they do like a bi-monthly publication. I can't remember what it's called. It's called it's got a name, the magazine. It's bi-monthly, and they mention me by name. And there's several sections in their publications that warn them, do not say a word to anyone. Any concerns, you go directly to a girl called Karen Caney, who runs a certain media department, media relations in the BIE. So they're you know, whereas I would think, do you know what, these embalmers are best placed to see any new pathology of any concern. They're very experienced. Aren't they an extra set of eyes to take care of us? Why would you want them not to raise concerns if they have concerns? That to me is really sinister to put in a publication.
Yeah. See, John. Yeah. See, the thing is, John, I I haven't talked about this for a little while because, as you know, when I had you on the show and many afterwards, you know, I had all of them: Caddy Madej, Sherry Tenpenny, Del Bigtree, the whole works, you know. And then I was sort of saturated with it, John. I mean, you're on the front line seeing this every day, but I thought, I don't know what else to do now, you know. I really don't. And now it's all coming out again, and more people are waking up from the chloroform. My own family have said now, oh my God, what Jason was on about. It's true. It's not like I'm not the truth. It's the truth's the truth. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. You know, one of the most telling things for me and I take no pleasure in saying I told you so.
No, me.
You know, I've been shouting for 3 years now. I remember when COVID hysteria first struck, and I was on Facebook back then. I mean, I've still got an account, but it's shadow banned to hell. You know, it's pointless going on.
Me too.
And there are people with the profile pictures, double jabbed, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, all on the profile pictures. It was a real psychotic trend that these people were doing. It broke my heart because I'm putting these people in coffins. In fact, and all the profile pictures have gone now.
Yes.
So doesn't that tell you they're not pushing it anymore? I'm going for my booster. I'm not hearing that anymore. So it tells you. But the sad thing for me is most people are passive. I'd be very, very angry if I'd lost my family, you know, but people don't care until it touches them. It's like war in Gaza. To me, I'm disgusted with my government, and I openly voice my disgust of them because we can do little else. But the average Joe blogs, they go, oh, well, yeah. And because it's not their family, and it's not bombs there, and it's not foreign soldiers running around killing them in their street, they're not really that bothered. Exactly. And therein lies the problem. I think society as a whole, we seem to have lost compassion, empathy, that God gene, where we actually are bothered about each other. But for some reason, mine was sustained. I just didn't, and I lost everyone. I lost all my mates. I don't speak to any of my mates, really. I've got one mate left that I can't talk to it about.
Wow.
Yeah. I've made lots of friends, new friends, you know, from the movement. But people like my own brother said that I was dangerous and ranted and raved at me. You know, it was not this, it's that, you're, and we no longer speak. He must now know the truth, and yet he still hasn't come to me and said, look, perhaps I was a bit hasty. I see it now. I'm really sorry. Do you know? And I can't waste any more energy on someone constantly abusing me, telling me I'm mad, as I'm placing youngsters in coffins. It's fucking insane.
It's insane.
What it's taught me is it's easier to fool someone than it is to get them to admit they've been fooled. Yeah. That pride, that, you know, nobody wants to say, yeah, I was made to look an idiot, you know, especially when you've actually allowed them to poison you as well. Coming to terms with that psychologically, it must be horrifying.
Oh God, it was the perfect storm, John. Fear of death is the first one, isn't it? I might die, so I'll have the jab. Fear of criticism, fear of your family turning on you, fear of being punished, fear of being fined. It was the perfect bloody storm, John, you know.
How am I wired differently where it didn't do that to me then? Because I put other people first.
And I suspect the government too, always, you know.
That's the thing. I put other people first.
Yeah.
I'm 56 years old. I don't consider myself a priority here. The priority for me is your kids and your kids and your kids. And that's who I say it for. It doesn't matter. They can come and get me tomorrow. I can suddenly develop a really aggressive cancer, have a heart attack, a car accident, get knocked off my motorbike mysteriously. You know, I know what the future holds for people that are true. I'm not frightened.
What bike you got?
A Hayabusa.
Oh, nice! I got a Blackbird.
Yeah, good bike, man. They're good bike. Yeah,
I was out this morning on it. Mine was the fastest in the world till yours came along.
Well, that was where the Hayabusa name come from, wasn't it? Peregrine Falcon, because they hunt blackbirds apparently. but my days of riding like a madman are gone, really.
Oh, me too. I do like overtaking still a little. I was out this morning. I drove to Painted on mine this morning. There was cars. I thought, I can pick them off. Mine does what, 180, 190? Yours does over 200 miles an hour.
So, well, I'm a bit of a fat sod these days. Probably do about 190. I'd hasten to add, I've never broken the law.
Well done.
Oh, it's straight in my eye. but yeah, they're good fun, mate. They're good fun.
Oh,
I can't wait to get back out on it. I like going to Wales. They've got some beautiful roads there, much better than the English roads.
I was in I was in Brecon Beacons day before yesterday with my family, you know. But I went in the car, you know. But
Yeah.
I often go up there on the motorbike. So if you're ever going up, tell me. I'll come and have a coffee with you up there.
You know, the last time I went up there was with my good friend of mine, Dave. I've known him for a long time. He's like a brother. And we were in a valley where they used to do mining, and it is all deserted and abandoned. You probably know the place. And there's just sheep there, the odd sheep. And what a place. It was like Planet of the Apes going back in time to a different, it was fantastic. So I love the Welsh people as well. They're so welcoming when we went there. I can't wait to get back there, to be honest.
Well, tell me when you're going, and I'll be up there the same time. We'll have a coffee now. Before we go, John, I know we got to leave in a minute. Lovely. I'm glad to know you're a fellow biker. That's made my night. Now, come on, everyone's saying, what's the solutions? Listen, I've got some people. I got a gallery in Totnes, in an art gallery. I sell my own paintings, right? So it's a meeting hub, John. People come in, and so many people, I'm telling you, are coming in now and saying they're forgetting what they were saying. What was it again? What was it again? And they're feeling rough. They're feeling depressed. They're feeling tired. They don't feel right. So look at the chemtrails. Dane Wigington, the bloody dimming. They're striping the sky every day. That's something people don't talk about. So
Right.
are you seeing that, you know, where you are? Are you seeing people? And I want to ask you, before you go, about solutions, John, what can people do? How can we make progress? What can we do to get this people who've taken the jab, what can they do to get this crap out of them, if it's possible?
So there are various protocols, and you can look at protocols McCullough or Tess Laurie or any of the others have talked about. They're quite easy to find. Things like NAC is a really good one. Bromelain is really good.
I take NAC every day. Yeah, go on.
Nattokinase, zinc, black seed oil. I'm told is good. There are a number of things, and you know there are snippets of wisdom as well, aren't there? Little sayings that survive the test of time. You are what you eat, being one of them. Look after yourself. You know, and it's all right for me saying that. I'm a couple of stone overweight, but you are what you eat. Try and eat well. Try and exercise well. Don't let yourself get morbidly obese, because they're busy, aren't they, promoting this? It's okay to be morbidly obese. Okay, if you're happy, it's okay, but you will die younger. So, you know, you are what you eat. Look after yourself. If you love your family and you want to spend as long as you can with them, look after yourself. Try and put good stuff on your plate and you know, in moderation. Don't drink. Don't smoke. If you can help it, you know, it's you won't find many doctors smoking. You know why? Because they see the end result. You know, I've pulled lungs out of smokers. You wouldn't smoke. I used to smoke right up until I started being an undertaker, and I looked at the inside of people who smoke, and you know that I stopped smoking then. And my son was born, and I was getting a couple of good chest infections a year, still smoking away, and I was on asthma inhalers. And you know when you think I'm just not going to see him grow up. And I was looking down at people younger than me with nicotine on their fingers and cigarette patches. You know, so deny these people your death by looking after yourself. And I remember my granddad was in the war, and he got captured by the Japanese. And he said the thing that kept him going, what he did to spite them, was survive. You know, and the way you're going to do that is by looking after yourself and network. So get in touch with other people locally who feel the way you do. Who grows what? Who fixes cars? Who's a plumber? Who's, you know, so when they try and force this digital ID, and you've got people that you don't need a digital ID for, and I suspect what we'll see is new communities springing up alongside the existing one. And then as people are sick and dying, I mean, I see them now shuffling along with a mask on, coughing and hacking. You know, they are sick and they are dying. But the reality is, it's really hard. That was one of the hardest things for me, was to accept I'm not going to save everyone. Some people are not going to listen. And the danger is their health is compromised because they've been damaged. So they need more protection. So they line up for more and more and more jabs, and they are going to die. That's the reality. But we need to network with like-minded people so that we can survive as long as possible. And hopefully, once it gets really, really dark, the masses will see it. And they'll all clamour to get back to the light, and we can out these people and hopefully, you know, move on to better times.
Well said, John. Well bloody said, mate. Absolutely. My sentiments exactly. Build new systems parallel to this one. So when the shit hits the fan and you can no longer bear it with the digital shackles, you switch over and we start building new communities while we still can. And before we go, John, I just want to say one more thing. I want to just give my heartfelt thing for the soldier, the U.S. Marine air pilot who bloody set himself on fire outside the
Yeah,
sorry, about
heartbreak.
outside the bloody Israel embassy, right? Set himself on fire, shouting "Free Palestine, Free Palestine." It's
Yeah.
not, and no bloody news channels have gone into it that
No,
much.
no.
What
I think
amazing!
it's heartbreaking. It must be for him as a serviceman. And one of the things I can resonate with him in that everyone likes to think they're good, don't they? We're born on the side of good. And I can remember them going in Iraq and thinking, yeah, get him, you know, he's evil, because you believe the narrative. But then the older and wiser you get, once you see through the veil and you see what these people have done, I'll be honest with you, I'm utterly disgusted and ashamed with successive British governments. They've done everything that Hitler did. Everything they've done. They've killed millions in the Far East. And my hope is that now, you know, these young men coming here don't think that we do that. They do that with our consent. They don't. My government hasn't represented me for decades. They've only lined their pockets and done their own interests. I'm desperate for change. I'm desperate to see these people removed.
Me too, mate. And I think they'll remove themselves like a dreadful, dirty cancer that eventually eats itself, right? You were saying, I heard you say earlier about GB News. They were saying about the cost of policing Palestinian marches was 25 million. How were all the billions that's being sent to Israel dropping the bombs that you've paid for on these poor Gazan people, everybody?
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. But unfortunately, you know, they want to build this new canal to rival the Suez Canal. They want Nova City there to terminate in the north of Gaza. Gas and oil licenses. They don't care about us. They don't care about them. All they care about is themselves.
They do, John. They do. They do. John, it's bloody, I don't want to let you go because I know you're a busy guy. You've given me enough of your time. And Alex Mitchell's on next with my cousin Lincoln Leach, who lost his daughter. You know, honestly, John, I so admire you. You're the superstar for me out of everybody.
I don't feel that. Please give that guy my condolences and tell him just to keep going and keep getting out of bed, because the most positive thing that he can do now is tell his daughter's story to save someone else's little girl.
Absolutely, John.
Because I tell you what will happen. There'll be other little girls there with a dream. Those little girls will be going to university and they're going to tell them they can't do their course if they're not vaccinated. Save them little girls. Save them little girls in honor of your little girl's life, and God bless him.
Wow, bloody amazing. John, where can, if someone wants to support you, have you got a Patreon page or anything like that?
No, I can't take a penny, mate.
Wow, you're amazing. You're amazing. You really are.
It upsets me, the thought of even wanting any money. You know, it's I've earned money out of these poor souls doing their funerals. It's awful.
Thanks for what you're doing every day, John. You're an amazing bloke. Honest to God, you're helping people through hell and bereavement. That is such an amazing job, and I know it mustn't be easy for you, but by God.
The best thing people could do, go out and do something nice for someone else. You know, because it's infectious, isn't it? It's like walking up to a bar and somebody smiles at you. You mirror them and you can't help smiling. Go out and do something nice for someone, and you know, hopefully that makes something nice happen that day for someone else. That would make me happy.
Jesus, thanks, John. Bloody hell, you're an amazing bloke. Thanks for your time, and I really appreciate you, man. I really do. Thanks, John.
And me, you. God bless, mate. Take care.
God bless you, mate. Take care. Wow, there goes John O'Looney. Blimey, unbelievable man. What an amazing man. Wow. There's a genuine bloke. That guy's burying people every day and helping people through their hell. And that's why that man's got not just that's why that guy's got a conscience. And he was one of the first ones to come out in the UK. I had him on my show years ago when all this crap started, when people were dying, and he came out and spoke the truth. His embalmer was finding stuff in people's veins and he couldn't not tell people. His conscience made him. Inspiration. Man with tears in his eyes speaking. My God. Anyway, I can't go on too much now because I've got Alex Mitchell on the show shortly with my cousin Lincoln Leach talking about the bereavement of his daughter. Listen, if you want to support me, go buy my book. There it is. Get that book. Go to, it was on Amazon, I'm afraid, or on my website, jasonisellis.com. Please get the products that we offer. If you want to buy a bit of silver and gold, which is a good idea, yeah, just spend a bit on it. Go and see Andy at Coins and Bullion of Honiton. He definitely, he's priced better than, what's it called, Bullion by Post. And he'll speak to you on the phone, give you great advice. And I was with him the other day. He's a guy who knows what he's talking about. So, and you'll see that there, and or there, one of the two. And give him a ring. The link will be under the show. And also go and get your Roots products. Like I said at the beginning, they're great products and they will help you. And also, I've got to tell you, they will help get some crap out of your system. All sorts of stuff. If you've got heavy metals and stuff in your system, it'll help to flush it out. I'm not going to go on and on because I've got another show to do. I bet you're all relieved, right? Go on, you want to see me go and have a rant, don't you? Oh, well, run. But my heart goes out to that guy again who set himself on fire. Look at it, watch it. You can see it on my Twitter feed. Watch the whole video of that man burning and falling to the floor. Why? Because he died for the Gazans and the Palestinians that are being bombed with the bloody money that the US government and the UK government, billions of pounds to Israel. Disgraceful. They've wanted to wipe Gaza off the face of the map for years, and now they're doing it. Yes, I'm angry. You're dead right. Little children dying. And when their limbs cut off with no anesthetic, my God alive, yeah. Oh, but Hamas came into Israel. It's disgraceful. Give us back the hostages. They let Hamas come in. I've had an IDF soldier on my show, Shay Danon. Go and ask him. Look back a few shows. They let them come in. They allowed it to happen. You can't get a cockroach near that fence without the alarm bells going off. Anyway, yeah, have a rant. So yeah, be kind to each other, like John said. Be nice to each other. Do something nice for somebody. I was in a garage today. There was a woman I shouldn't tell about the things I do, okay? Because you shouldn't, because it spoils it, right? But I'll tell you this one thing, right? A woman trying to tap her phone, big queue of people behind me, right? Oh, it just wouldn't work. I didn't know. She's a stranger. I said, what's happening? Blah, blah, blah. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll pay it for you on my card. Yeah. By the way, she was using her phone. Don't use your phone. Cash, right? Don't fall into the bloody digital trap because you're done for. They'll turn you off and switch you off. I said, I'll pay on my Visa. You know what I said? Just to say, trust people, okay? Yes, someone might screw you over, but just to inspire people, okay? You might say, well, you're stupid. Okay. Well, I had £50 in my account, which is good. I wanted to help her. Why? Because she was in trouble. She put all that petrol in her car. She couldn't pay for it. She's going somewhere. I said, there's my bank account number. There's my shop in Totnes, right? She lived nearby, apparently. That's why I don't know if she was true. I don't know. I haven't had the money back in the account yet. I haven't looked. There's my account number. There's my sort code. Stick it in there. She said, I can put it in right now as we stand here. No, I said, don't. It'll spoil the trust. It'll be a better story to tell your family and your children that one day some guy in a garage, a stranger, paid for me and said, I don't want you to put it in my account now. And I walked outside. I said goodbye to her. I walked outside and I saw her car, her getting in it. And I said, I'm not going to take her number. You might say I'm an idiot. I'm not going to take her number. It'll spoil the trust. I bet that money's in my account now. And if it's not, I've made a mistake. And if she can rip me off and she's got she can deal with her conscience, fine. It's okay. I've been in terrible trouble before. I've gone in bins for food. I've been shot at in Cape Town, homeless in Florida, living in cars. God knows what's happened to me. There was always someone who will help you, who will hold your hand and help you when you're in trouble. Help people. Be kind to each other. Treat other people like you like to be treated. And this world would be so much more amazing. My God. And anyway, that's it. Go to my jasonleosatisart.com if you want to see my paintings. I've got a gallery in Totnes, in Devon. And I'm hoping Mr. John O'Looney, if you're watching this, John, will come down one day on his Hayabusa. I'll be doing 180 miles an hour and he'll overtake me doing 210. Whoosh! Right? My bike was the fastest bike in the world for quite a while. And then the Hayabusa. We don't do those speeds, obviously. I think I did about 135 on my last Honda Blackbird, and I was just terrified. So it wheelies at 100 miles an hour once. I hope that's... Anyway, that's another story. That was in another country, not here. I don't break the laws like John. Okay, right. I love you all dearly, okay? The next show is coming up. Take care, everybody. Lots of love. Love each other. Love yourself. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.